Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the Forest Friends panel sew along. So we have added a panel to the sew along from your request. So I'm so excited, and it means so much to me that there's been such a huge response to the panels in this collection. It is near and dear to my heart. There's people that are giving them away, making lots if they don't have children in their life. I've heard groups and organizations and even individuals that are making numerous panels to do as donation dolls and gifts in children's hospitals and Christmas cheer and all kinds of different wonderful organizations. And this just makes my heart so full. So thank you from my heart so much for that. And even if you're just making a panel, for yourself, it's just wonderful, or maybe as a stocking stuffer for some children in your life. It's fantastic. So welcome, welcome. This is week 2 of the Forest Friends doll panel sew along. So just so there's no confusion, Wednesdays we are doing the panel sew along, and Fridays we are doing the Fox Cub quilt sew along. So we wanted to get them both in. Opposed to doing this one in December. December gets really hectic and busy, and if you wanted to have it quilted and all the things. So this was an extremely popular paper pattern. So I know a lot of local quilt shops have this pattern. Thank you again. So we wanted to make sure we're supporting you. Now, I should say these videos come out on Wednesday or Friday for the quilt, but they will stay forever on the YouTube channel and in the Facebook group. So just make sure that you are following one or both. And, if things happen, sorry, there's like fox fur flying around. Where did that come from? And you can see those videos anytime. Got to keep it real, right? Welcome, welcome, everybody. So happy to have you here. If you haven't already, you can sign up for we'll just talk today about the Wednesdays, about our panel sew along. The schedule is on there, and as you can see, on week 3 we added the tent. You're welcome. I know people were asking a lot for that, so we'll give you tips and tricks on the tent too. And of course, you'll need to make your dolls to go in the tent. So this month you'll make both those panels. There's also a sleeping bag panel. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You can download all the instructions on the Be So Inspired website. So I am a passionate quilt pattern writer as well. So all of the instructions are fully illustrated step by step, so you can see all the things. This is amazing value. We get this for free, and you can just sign up for it with the panel. So there's just, even if you're following behind or you want to go ahead, either way, just make sure you grab the sheets for all of the panels that we have and for all of the panels that we will have. Hint, hint, hint. I guess a little secret tip that I should say is virtual quilt market is happening, and and if you haven't seen already, we are announcing a new collection that's coming out in May 23, and it is called Silent Night, and it is a nativity collection, and the nativity collection panel is a felt panel. It has a bag and felt friends and the whole scene, so you can act it out. You can give a felt doll for like a countdown to Christmas calendar, advent calendar. You can make Christmas tree ornaments with it, a garland. This is so many possibilities. So shops can pre-order that now. And then there's a full collection with the collection as well. It's called Silent Night. And there's some great supporting patterns, and they're not just for children. So some of the patterns there can be hung out in your living room for Christmas, maybe hung in your church, all of the things. And they are sophisticated enough to be out in the family house, but they have that nod to whimsy inside the designs for children. And the color palette is very rich, sort of traditional color palette. I'm so excited about this collection. So if you haven't seen it, please go to Coming Soon. Go under on the Riley Blake website. You can search up Silent Night, or you can look under Designers Jennifer Long, and you'll see it there too. So thank you, shops, in advance for supporting all of our collections, and we will support you in turn with and our customers with all of this wonderful fun. Okay, so today we are starting with really getting into the nitty gritty. So I know that Panels we're shipping at the end of October, and some shops might have them. Some shops are just getting them in now. So we're going to cut together today. And so today is actually sewing the dolls, but I want to go back a little bit and just cut with you a little bit too. Just there's a couple of tips and tricks I want to make sure you don't miss. So today is cutting and sewing the doll. Week 3, we're going to be leaving this doll, so you have some time to get, and we're going to move on to the panel, the tent panel. And then week 4, we're going to do the finishings of all the things. So we kind of got 2 panels going at once. It's going to be really fun. All right, so let's get started here. I'm going to drop the camera down, and we are going to begin by cutting out our panel. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to just work with our panel today together, and we're going to get it cut and sewn together. So every piece will have a dotted line, and that gives you a nice, good 1/4 inch or just slightly bigger than 1/4 inch seam, just so you have lots of maneuverability on the small little pieces especially. Even the sweater has that 1/4 inch already. If you want more than a 1/4 inch seam, you'll have to just cut even further. But if you're happy with it, with this seam width, then you can just cut right on the dotted lines of all of the pieces. You can also just keep some of the fun elements that sort of are space fillers, and you can use them to applique into other things. These will like back with on felt, and you can just fuse them on felt. And they can be little badges for your foxes as well. There's this adorable trail map so that they actually can have their own little fabric trail map. You'll just make that like a little quilt. And there's just lots of fun little elements in there. All right. So what you want to do before you begin is you'll want to press your panel really well. And you are going to want to either spray it. Sometimes I spray it with a little bit of just, water, or if you want to have it really firm, you can do it with a spray and starch and just have it really firm. So I'll be back in a minute, and we are just going to iron this. So I have a prepared panel over here. So this one was ironed a little while ago. It's just a lot flatter. You can see it's gotten out of that center seam there, or the center press that's on the bolt usually. So, all right, we've got our panel. You can take your favorite pair of sharp scissors. So you can use a bigger pair or a smaller pair, or whatever you prefer. I'm going to use this bigger pair just for speed, and I've cut a lot of dolls out. But if you aren't comfortable with it, then you can use a smaller pair as well. So make sure that your panel is flat. You can start on the edge of your panel if you want. I'm going to just start with the doll because some of this stuff is self-explanatory, so I won't do the whole thing with you live, but you can start where it works best for you. So I'm going to cut out carefully along this whole line, and my doll is pressed so that there isn't any kind of like bumps. When you're working with a 1/4 inch seam and you're using scissors, opposed to like in quilting, you would use a 1/4 inch seam, but you would have a rotary cutter. So when you're cutting it by hand with scissors like this, you just want to make sure that you are always on the outside of the seam allowance there and not on the inside. And I am going to show you in a minute a tip and trick for how to, even if you're cutting it by hand and your seam allowance isn't exact all of the time, we want it to be as close as we can, but even if it isn't, like, so you can see here, I have a little bit of green on the hand still. That's no problem at all, because we are going to actually use something slightly different for a guide. And I'm going to teach you the first really important trick. But here it comes. Are you ready? So we're going to come up to the legs. Do not cut into the center of the legs right now. If you have already, no big deal. But this is my first tip and trick, is keep the legs not cut, because they are identical here and here. And when you put them together, you're going to have a very easy time matching them. So it's just a simple little tip that just helps with doll making. Okay, I'm almost there. I'm just going to cut out this side. And here we are. All right. Good. So we're going to pretend that I have both pieces cut out already, just for time here, because I don't know if you want to spend the whole afternoon with me. Maybe you do. So after we have the fox like this, you'll just turn him over. You'll have the back side cut out as well. And you're going to take a pen or a pencil or any kind of a marker. You can put this against a window so it's easier to see, but you can start here, and I'm going to just draw a line. I can see where it is. You might not be able to see it on the video, but I'm going to draw a line exactly where I want to sew. This is the tip and trick number 2. So you're going to draw exactly where you want to sew, like where the seam allowance ends. So if I'm going to show you over here, exactly where the brown begins and the orange starts. Here it's kind of maybe a little more difficult to see on the video, but if you put it up against your light box or the window, you'll have a much easier time to see that. And the reason why the color isn't a huge difference, we try to match the color close enough so you can see the so that, you know, if some of it comes through, it's not like clashing, it's not a purple seam allowance. But we don't want a black dot there either, because then, you know, if that ever came through, you would see this like black little seam dot. So this is, trust me, it's the cleanest way to make a panel doll. Okay, and we just go around the whole doll like this. So nice. All right, so once you've prepared that and gone all the way around and prepared the front piece by tracing, then you'll do the same thing to the back, but you do not need to draw on the seam allowance here. And I'm going to show you why in a minute, but do keep the legs together if you've kept them together on this side. So I'm just going to set these aside for a minute. This one's prepared with the drawing and this one's just cut out. Then you've taken your panel and you've cut out all of your other little pieces, my ears, and I'm going to do the same kind of a thing. So I'm going to take the top piece and I'm going to draw along the seam allowance here and pin in place. And then I'm going to take a shortened seam stitch here and stitch on that line. You can see I've done the same thing to the tail. So we're going to need the tail and the ears prepared before we assemble this doll. What I want you to do here, because there's lots of seam allowance here and I've stitched, you can see, well, can you see? Well, inside that line is we are going to trim. So if you feel like this is just too much width here, you can, now that you've sewn it, you can take some of it off. And what I like to do here at the tip, because the tip, you know, you want it to be nice and point, is I like to almost lop off this tip. So it's kind of like a flat tip there. We're going to have to cut a little bit into it, but stay far enough away so that your seam, your stitches on your seam don't come out. I'm just going to kind of curve that up a little bit and then take this corner off as well too. Okay, push those off to the side. So now you're going to go along and without snipping into your stitches, without snipping any stitches, you're going to make tiny little snips all the way around. And this helps get you a nice curve. A nice curve all the way around the tail. And I'm going to show you in a minute how to turn it. We're going to stuff the tail, but not the ears. Okay, so it looks like this. It's trimmed all the way around. Okay, you can use a knitting needle to turn your dolls, or you can use, these are called a pair of hemostats, and you can use a pair of those. I got them on Amazon, but you can get them almost anywhere. They are a medical supply. So how they work is they've got these little notches here, and they click together, and then they hold whatever here. They're great for stuffing, but I like them for turning too, or you can use a turning tool. So I just kind of grab that little end, and then I just pull it through. Look how easily it pulls through. So I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to close these again, and then I use it just to push out that tip. Although you can also use, where is my flamingo point turner here. This is designed by my dear friend Bev at Flamingo Toes, and you can push that out. Push all the seams out so you can see how that matches just so nicely. Can you see that? So that's from pinning, and you can see that seam matches really good on both edges of the black all the way around. Good. Here too, and here. So I'm going to push out all the seams, not just the point, but all the seams all the way around. You're going to do the same thing to your ear. So I'm going to cut little snips all the way in. So I'm using the inside part of my scissors because I feel very, I've done this so much, I guess I should say, so that I know how much to snip and how much pressure, but what you don't want to do is cut into the ear. So if you'd rather just use the tips of your scissors, go ahead. I just feel like I need to push a little bit more pressure in my fingers, and I have a lot of experience. That's why I was using the inside, and I'm trying to do it for speed, just to be cognitive of the length of time for this video. Then we're just going to pull it away. Good. And push out this. You can press this ear flat, and it's just going to stay like this. You are not going to stuff the ears. They're just going to look like this. So they look like cute little ears. Whoops. Cute little ears like this. Nice and soft, and they are just flat. They're going to be stuck in the seam allowance like that. Okay, so we're going to prepare both ears, but we are going to stuff the tail. I mean, you don't have to, but I like to stuff the tail. So I'm going to take, again, a little bit of stuffing. This is the only thing that you need to stuff before you're sewing. We're going to do the full stuffing of the doll in week 4. So don't feel like you have to get ahead of yourself. I just want you to take this time and do all the pieces in the panel. You pretty much have 2 weeks to do them if you are not doing the tent, to do all the pieces. Sew them, cut them, draw on the lines, and stitch up your foxes. So here we go. And keep stuffing in. So if you notice, I'm pulling apart the stuffing before I put it in, and it just gives it like a really nice kind of loft, but then I really push it in, and then you don't have like an awkward ball of stuffing that sometimes can happen. Now, if you don't have these hemostats, you can use anything. The rubber end of eraser on a pencil works really well because it kind of grabs it. A paintbrush grabs the stuffing, and it works really well as well. You can use a knitting needle to push it in. So anything like that is really good. So I want to start pushing it in really hard here at the top, and then I'm going to just gently ease it up, and I'm not going to stuff. So not the seam allowance for sure, but maybe another ½ inch. Whoa, that seems like a lot, right? So another ½ inch you don't want to stuff. Because you've stuffed this so hard, we're going to be able to work our way here. But you can see I don't want this tail like just straight out of this fox. I do want a little bit of movement in that tail. So it's just stuffed less here, but you can see how hard it is stuffed here. So this is just like details in stuffing. So I'm going to need to put a little bit more. You can see I'm only stuffed to about there, and I want to go to about ½ inch of the actual fox fur. All right, and just a little bit more. Isn't it amazing how much stuffing goes into just something as small as the tail? All right, let's take the back piece. So we are going to position the pieces on the back piece. You'll have to prepare your second ear, but this is just for demonstration here. So if I want this tail, this is the back of my doll, to come out on this side, then you'll just measure it like this. Or if you want to see, I put it on this side, on this doll. So you can decide which way you want your tail. I put one doll this way and one doll this way just for fun. So you're going to, let's say I want to have it, I'm going to have it actually the opposite. So that these two foxes, when they're holding hands, their tails are going in either way. So I want this tail to be coming out of this fox this way. So you can have it pointing up like this, but I am going to actually have the hump pointing up and then this kind of arching down. That's the way it is designed. So just like that. And then I'm going to flip it so it's inside his body. Do you see how nicely it fits inside the body? And you don't need to match the seam allowance. We're going to give it even more because remember, we left a 1/2 inch here. You can see sort of how long this area is. That is done intentionally. That is done so you can match this up and really pull. You can place the tail where you want the tail to be and really make sure that it's all over, and you can pin it in here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to double pin it here just so it's not going to move or wiggle at all because it is stuffed. And I'm going to take the ears and do the same. So on the front of the doll, you'll have the ears with the white piece facing up. This is probably a little bit easier on the front side. So we can do the front of the doll like this, just to make sure that you've got the ears, and then you're going to flip it. So you can see how when it matches here, I'm just going to pin it to show you how this works, because it's like if you've ever made pants and you know how you sew inside like the legs of the pants and you're like, whoa, how is this all working? And then it all comes together. It's sort of the same thing when you're doing doll parts, because you're doing it on a curved angle here. So you see if I put a pin here, if I put a pin in here and here, because it's going to go up around that curve, when I flip those over, the ear is actually kind of on this like 45-degree angle pointing in, correct? So that means when you turn this ear in, you're going to place it. It looks really, you can really see it on the seam allowance too. I'm going to draw the seam allowance so you can see it easier. Good. Just like that. Okay, so on that seam allowance there, you can really see. So I'm going to pin that ear in and the side of the ear in. Good. And the other ear. So I'll have the 2 prepared ears. You can stitch this along here and get rid of your pins, and same thing with this piece. And you can also pin the tail to the front piece, but I drew on the front piece, so I want to have this just flat. I like to have the tail on the piece that I did not draw on. So alternately, I mean, you could draw on the back piece and sew back to front here. That is completely up to you, but for purposes today, I'm going to do it this way. So I've pinned the ears here and I've pinned the tail here. You can go ahead and base that on your machine, but like for speed, I won't do that today. I'm going to flip this over. And it feels like, oh, it's not really matching because this tail's in here. But let's just go through all of the tricks. These are your friend. You are going to pin, pin, pin. So I'm going to start at the legs. And what I'm going to do is, you can see where you've drawn. It's so easy to see. You're going to put your pin right in the corner. And then you're going to open up the doll and put your pin right in the corner again. Because on the right side you can easily see, and you'll just pin it coming in towards the body. Do the other side, so right on the drawn line, peek and check here, and do it again right there. The next place we want to match along the legs, so this is great if you've kept it together because it'll be the same distance. If not, it'll be the same process that you just did. And we want this black fur to match the black fur on, or if you're doing the white, then it's the gray fur and the gray fur. You want these 2 corners to match there. So you just take the seam allowance and where that black meets up, and the seam allowance and where the black meets up underneath, and you place a little pin. And so it's kind of, imagine if you are a quilter, that these are just little like piecing. So this is like your HST, your half square triangle, and you want the point to match on your other half square triangle. So don't let the shape of this intimidate you. It is the same techniques that you would use in any of your like quilting or sewing that you might do. I'm going to go to these hips and then do these 2 points. So I'm going to do these 2 points and these 2 points before I do the feet, just for ease here. And I'll do just check. And again, here and check. Here and check. And here and check. Good. So that doesn't take long at all. Feet. Anything round, we'll want to do at least maybe 2 on the sides and then 1 on the top of each of the foot. So there, when you're sewing this, now I will say, I'm going to give you information on sewing while we are, because that's going to be your last step today. While we are pinning here, when you're thinking about sewing your doll, you are going to use a shortened stitch length. We've mentioned that before. Make sure I'm going right through. Yep. All right. Shortened stitch length. And on the curve, if you have to pick up your presser foot at all, that you leave your needle down. It's great if you have a machine that can be set in the needle down position. Sometimes you can do that with your pedal, or you can change the settings on your machine. If you don't have that, before you lift up your foot, just take the wheel by hand and turn it so the needle is down, and then you just pick up and move slightly if you need to. If you go slow around these curves, so I mean, you're going through all this work, so don't rush the sewing, especially of the body of the doll, because it won't take you long. It's not a big area, and you just want to make sure that you take care around those. You're going to continue all the way around here. What I'm going to just say about this tail, we want to say, is that you're going to want to leave an area open. And to turn the doll, I would suggest not leaving the tail side open. So you want a nice, strong sewing machine seam on here. So I would leave this section open. So I'm just going to remind myself, and I'm going to draw a line here. I kind of want to leave open to here. I want a nice big spot to leave open for turning. So I got to get this stuffed tail through there. So I'm going to start here, sew all the way around my doll, and I'm going to finish here. Now, if you move the tail onto this side, then you would make those marks on the other side. So this, you don't have to worry that it's kind of distorting the doll, because you just have to match these seams. So you're just going to have to take your drawn line no matter where it is. So if it's in this armpit, I mean, I would pin this start and stop position too, actually. There and here. All right. Then I would do the armpits, the fur, the wrist, the tip, the wrist, the fur, all the way around the neck. So the neck actually has a little bit of a neck. The seam allowance looks like it comes to a point, but actually you'll be sewing. Kind of, it looks like that, right? All the way around. So same thing here. The ears are here. If you stitch that, then you won't have those extra pins there, and you'll just keep stitching with those ears in there. We're going to talk about turning on the way, on the 4th week, turning this doll and stuffing this doll, and there's definitely techniques to it. But once you've got this whole area pinned, you can easily fit that tail in there, and you just keep going around and pinning the same way that you would, so that it fits nicely in there. Then you can start here, sew all the way around on the inner perimeter, just like you've done. And that will be just put aside until we're ready for week 4. You'll have lots of pieces to do in this panel. So you can download the PDF instructions, which look like this, on the Be So Inspired website under Fabric Collections, under Forest Friends. There's the panel instructions. You'll be able to find them there. So you'll do the same thing for the little fox. He has no added elements, so he doesn't have added ears. He's just simply put on there. There's information on how to do the little clothing. The clothing we're going to talk about a little bit more in another week, but if you want to go ahead and cut all of these pieces out, the scarf has information. This is a little quilt that you can make, and you can just quilt him up. You can cut all these pieces and put them off to the side. Here's your trail map. You have a little extra tree. And like I said, you can save these elements as well. So that is our homework for week 2 of the Fox panel sew along. I am so happy that you are here joining us. It's so much fun, tips and tricks, and I can't wait for us to continue on. I hope you're doing good. I'll move the camera up here. Thank you so much for joining us here today for the Forest Friends panel sew along week 2. It has been such a pleasure to share this creation with you, and I cannot wait to see yours. So please don't feel like you have to wait until you have a finished doll to share on social media. It means a lot to me if you would share any of your progress shots, even if you're just cutting your panels or just getting the panels, getting ready, however you want. I would love it if you shared and tagged me with the @ at Be So Inspired. It's helpful so that I can see it in my feed. I can reshare back and just cheer you on. You can also share inside our Facebook group or comment on the YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. If this is your first experience doll making, this is a great place to start. And if you want even more tips and tricks, we have a club called the Makers Club, and it is an amazing value. So for under $10 a month, so it's $9.98 a month, you can get 4 or 5 patterns every month. So you'll get a doll pattern every month. You'll get little stuffed fruits or vegetables. You even get a quilt block. You'll get something every week. And as well as in the doll section, there's tons of information on photographing your dolls, on how to stuff limbs, on marketing your dolls, all kinds of different wonderful tips and tricks in there. You know that I'm passionate about professional doll making and even just getting a professional look of doll making. So I hope that if you are interested and you are enjoying these, that you would come over and see what we can all offer as well. But thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to me, and I will see you again next week. Next week we are doing a little bit, we'll talk a little bit more about our progress on the dolls, but we are going to be doing our tent panels. So I just wanted to show you before you leave. Don't leave yet. I've got all my panels here. So I'm just going to go through the panels. We've got the Forest Friends. This is the Woodland colorway. So this is this doll, but in the woodland. And this is the Woodland Vixen doll. So that's what you call like a female fox. So that. And I have that also in the Arctic colorways. So there's the Todd fox, it's called, and then the Vixen fox. So there's actually 4 doll panels, so 2 in each colorway. So you can mix and match them for your family. You can have them make all of them, make some of them, have them different colors together like this. It's so beautiful. They all work together. Next week, we are doing the tent panel. So it looks like this, and it comes in 2 colorways. So this is the Woodland colorway, and this is the Arctic colorway. And we'll do the 3D tent next week. And then just so you know, there's also 2 more panels, and it's the child's sleeping bag. So this is a great big pillow, and then the sleeping bag is the body. You'll need to get a little bit more yardage for the body part, but all the legs stick out of the sleeping bag, and the little arms, it's so adorable. It looks like this, and little cute little feet in there. So you can have your child sleep over in the fox dolls, or the fox sleeping bag, with their fox doll and the fox tent. You'll have a whole woodland adventure, and it'll just be super fun. Don't forget, on Fridays this month in November, we are also doing the Fox Cub quilt along. So if you're wanting to join us there, that's on Fridays. So I'm just putting all my yardages back. Got to keep things organized. And I will see you again next week. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you for being here.